coming back to Norway after the Stockholm period, I moved back to Oslo after my studies in Trondheim, and there I met a young guitar player called Ivar Grydeland, and he also, from a different perspective or from a different part, he also was introduced to this experimental music with like a listening group of old guys in his hometown which were interested in experimental music. And he was also studying jazz in Oslo and had the same problem as me. We didn't really want to play jazz anymore. We wanted to do our own music and experiment and improvise freely. So we found each other there in some kind of way, and we realized that this tradition of improvising has actually, they didn't have any real musicians in Norway doing this, except for one guy living in a small town on the west coast. And he was also quite a loner, so he went off playing in London and in other places in Europe without being so much in contact with the Norwegian scene in Oslo, I would say. So we felt that what should we do? We need to play this music, but how can we make this? How can we develop this music when we're just the two of us? No, we have to release this music somehow. And realizing also that this was quite difficult, because what we did was kind of, it's not new in Norway, because I mean there's been a long tradition in both Central Europe and also Sweden actually, who has developed this kind of way of improvising. But in Norway they were very connected to the ECM tradition, which ECM is a German label where a Norwegian jazz musician has been putting out music since the late 60s. And this had a strong tradition in Norway, and everybody who played improvised music or music related to improvisation seemed to be going down in that direction of the ECM school or the American jazz tradition. So this was kind of a European improvised music expression that we wanted to investigate. So we decided we have to start our own label. So I contacted a friend of mine, and he said, don't do it. Don't make a label. Come with me. We can make a sub-label to my label, and you can do whatever you want. So me and my friend and I, we released our first album on a guitar and drums duo there. And it was quite funny to read the critics in the newspaper there, because then actually they wrote critics in the newspaper at that time, in the beginning of 2000. And they usually give, they roll the dice from 1 to 6 from which one is the best. And we got a blank dice for that album. And the critic was quite honest. He said that I am not in a condition to actually value this kind of music. But I mean, what's going on musically in that disc is quite extraordinary. So we got this from the start, quite lots of attention of what we were doing, like something quite new in Norway. And at the same time, there was a new venue coming up in Oslo dedicated to experimental music. So at that point, it was gradually advancing the interest for this music. And my project also expanded. We saw that this was something that we could actually develop, and we started a big band. We did lots of collaborations, and me and the guitar player also entered back to the high school in Oslo to do a master in chamber music with only improvised music on the repertoire, which actually I was not so sure to going back to the institution, but apparently this institution had also developed their educational system so that you could actually do that. We were the first to actually have the improvised music as repertoire as chamber music repertoire in that master degree. So that was quite exciting. It was also quite freely. We got 2 years with the budget to actually do a project that we wanted, and we had to report on it and and we had to have a final exam where we played the duo, me and Ivar, with improvised music, and that was our master degree, which has now been very common at this institution. Now it's obligatory to do improvised music classes, also for classical musicians there. So this has also expanded. It's not only that the whole music scene is very interested in improvisation now. This has exploded actually in Oslo the last 20 years, the interest of this. And now we're still running the label. And my projects now are actually, since the beginning, there were a lot of ad hoc projects. That means that we collaborated with many different musicians and improvised. So it was there was no structure. There was nothing that was talked about beforehand how we should play. We just wanted to make music, spontaneous music there and there. And after that, many years of this ad hoc projects, me and the guitar player, we found out that we wanted to structure more the music. Even though we wanted to have the basis in improvisation, we wanted to find a way how to work constantly within a group. We were more interested in establishing a long-term relationships with other musicians, and we developed two groups now, which I still work with, called Huntsville and Dalesarb. And this is me and the guitar player in this quartet, together with the clarinet player and the pianist. And in the other band, it's me and him and the bass player, which is also occasionally now playing the banjo. So this, after doing many ad hoc projects, at some point you realize that you're actually entering in a kind of a dynamics of playing that is quite the same all the time. You meet new people, and you have the first meeting, could be nice, but then again you have always these first meetings and you get a bit tired of it, but you play the same way in some kind of way. So that's why we wanted to bring our experience into developing a sound of our own. Like we've done with our own instrument, we wanted to develop a group sound of our own. And that's where I'm actually now these days. I'm doing these regular projects, fixed projects, and also working constantly with the different approaches in my solo work.